Okay, now this one was a tough one for me. Football in America is about as American as you can get, especially when thinking about a corporate world where the country is even a corporate business. Many suspect that the greedy claws of corporate America have even grabbed hold of sports, like football. This is On the Fence, and today we are discussing the debate on whether or not the NFL is rigged. First of all, I want to point out that I'm not coming on here to tell you that I have the inside scoop. This is merely pointing out the facts and differences between each side of this argument. You can probably tell that I'm a Falcons fan, and before you guys try to tell me, I already know that we blew a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl. I don't want anyone thinking that this is just a whiny complaint about what happened last year, because honestly, to me, it's just that, last year. If you're still talking about it now, it's just time to move on. That said, let's get started. The National Football League is one of the biggest sports in the United States. It's a sport where 32 teams play each other in a 17-week season. They do this in hopes to have a shot at being one of the 12 remaining teams left in the playoffs. From there, you narrow it down into just 2 teams, one from the AFC and one from the NFC, to play in the Super Bowl, which is the biggest sporting event on national television. The NFL as a whole was a non-profit organization at least until 2017 when they decided to shed that skin. I couldn't find an exact number for the overall net worth because each team has its own net worth of its own, thus accumulating into the NFL pot. But I was able to deduct that the NFL is worth between $70 and $80 billion by now. All of this is basic sports yada yada, but let's be honest, you guys came here to hear a different side of the story. Like I said earlier, this is America. Here we're business. And sporting leagues are no different than Disney in terms of maximizing profits. Let's take a look at some laws in this country that, although don't prove the rigging of the NFL, definitely don't help the argument. First of all, sports of any kind can be labeled as entertainment. By labeling themselves as this, they're able to follow the same laws and guidelines that, say, Family Feud has. What makes this different from Family Feud, however, is just the fact that it's a different kind of entertainment. You'll get what I mean in a second. There's one law that pertains to both of these here, the quiz show law, as it's generally known by. This law has many parts in it that I am not going to get into in this video, but it does have a few that I do want to take focus on. Particularly, it shall be unlawful for any person with intent to deceive the listening viewing public to engage in any artifice or scheme of the purpose of prearranging or predetermining in whole or in part of the outcome of the purportedly bona fide contest of intellectual knowledge, intellectual skill, or chance. So that all seems fine and all, but what does that have to do with football? Well, intent viewer, football is not necessarily an intellectual game of chance. It's a physical game of skill, which this law does not cover. Now, this law also holds another part by saying, by means of persuasion, bribery, intimidation, or otherwise, to induce or cause any contestant in a purportedly bona fide contest of intellectual knowledge or intellectual skill to refrain in any manner from using or displaying his knowledge or skill in such contest. Again, notice the intellectual words used. And in a nutshell, this part of the law keeps the guys up top from being able to bribe the NFL players. Now that kind of seems like it'll get rid of this whole NFL is rigged thing, because otherwise they would have been caught, they would have been yada yada yada. It doesn't say anything about just telling someone to do something. Let me explain. Think like your boss's boss's boss tells you to do something at work. He is your boss, and as so, you just do as you are commanded. He's not bribing you in any way, but as your boss, he is telling you, go mop that floor. Think of them doing this with the referees, just saying, okay, for today, this team's gonna win, this team's gonna win, make sure that happens. There is no bribery involved, which therefore means that this law is not active in this situation. Even players and coaches can fall under this guideline. Hey Steve, do you mind licking the floor here? There seems to be a puddle that I'm about to step in.
Can't you just walk around it, sir?
Yes, just as easily as I can fire you.
Oh, my. Okay.
You can also fight this point by looking at a more political side. Considering the ideology of the NFL being an entertainment-based business, You can deduct that you'll have many of your guys sitting in those top chairs at the beginning of a season making up stories as to how the season's gonna go. Imagine if WWE executives happen to work at NFL. The stories can follow any national issue, like say 9/11. Wow, I talked about 9/11 in the last 2 episodes. In 2001, the New England Patriots started their season 0-2, which means they won 0, lost 2. They, as well as the New York Giants and the New York Jets, were one of the 3 closest teams to the location at the time. Now with this war against terrorism, they had to find a very patriotic way to fight terrorism. And what's more patriotic than being called the Patriots? Well, that year they ended the season at 11-5 and went all the way up to win the Super Bowl. For the next many years, the United States would preach this level of fighting against terrorism, and also as such would have a very Patriots-dominated NFL. We would go on to see them win back-to-back Super Bowls from 2004 and 2005. In 2007, they went completely undefeated, going 16-0 in the regular season, going all the way into the playoffs, all the way into the Super Bowl, only to get knocked off of their horse by the New York Giants. That, of course, boosted sales because it was an underdog that beat the impossible-to-beat Patriots. We even got to see a rematch of this game in 2012 where it was the Giants versus the Patriots, and again, the Giants won. Looking past the Patriots, during the pain of Hurricane Katrina in 2009, the New Orleans Saints went on to go win the Super Bowl in 2010.
So in what way can we get them folks down in New Orleans to go back to their jobs?
Well, Drew Brees wouldn't mind a ring.
Good idea. You, go tell the refs that the Saints are gonna go to the Super Bowl this year, okay?
There was even a time when a ref came out and admitted that he made the wrong calls in a game. In fact, it was the Super Bowl. Bill Levy states that in the Super Bowl between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Seattle Seahawks, that the wrong calls were made and in fact the wrong team won. He said that the Seahawks did deserve to win. However, due to poor penalties, the Pittsburgh Steelers ended up holding up the trophy and had a ring. When he did this, it was the very start of the 2010 season leading into the 2011 Super Bowl. Ironically enough, the Pittsburgh Steelers went on to play against the Green Bay Packers, who just so happened to beat the Steelers. Almost as if the NFL was kind of taking a win from them. Like they gave them one so many years. To be completely honest with you though, there's really no evidence pointing towards it not being rigged. It's kind of like a game of finding Bigfoot. You know, those that believe in Bigfoot will have all of this evidence and all of this supporting facts or information, and then the non-believers will sit there and say, well, if he was real, we would have found him by now. It's kind of the same thing. Really, the biggest point is by saying if the NFL was rigged, we would have found out by now. Now, I'm not saying it's rigged and I'm not saying it isn't. I will say though, from a business standpoint, it's not worth risking finding out how the audience will react. To them, it just might not be worth releasing that answer. Now, I want to know from you guys though, put a little debate down in the comments. Are you skeptical to how legitimate this sport is? Or do you just like sitting down on your couch and watching a good game? Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, be sure to check out my channel. I got a bunch of other stuff going on there. I release new videos every Saturday at 12:30 p.m. And for you gamers out there, I also release Let's Plays regularly. Thank you all so much, and I hope to see you guys again next week.